Welcome to this meeting. Our Swissvale Borough legislative meeting will begin shortly, but before I call that meeting to order, we have some interviews for the vacant seat left by Representative Abigail Salisbury. And so we have 5 individuals who are online and that we will ask a series of questions, the same questions too. And so we'll just jump right into things. The first applicant that we are going to be interviewing is Fred Quinn III. So Mr. Quinn, if you want to unmute. The question that I'll be asking all candidates is, and you can respond once I've asked this. Mr. Quinn, introduce yourself and share why you are interested in this position and what you would bring to it.
All right, thank you so much for that. Again, my name is Fred Quinn III. To tell you a little bit about myself, I am a man who wears many hats. So currently I work at Apple in Shadyside, where I'm a Genius admin. But on top of that, I am the volunteer champion of my store. What that means is I get all the volunteer events together for my store. I also work for the Pennsylvania State University as the Alumni Network Coordinator, working with high school students throughout Allegheny County to connect them with resources, jobs, careers, things of that nature. I also serve on the Urban League of Young Professionals of Greater Pittsburgh as the Civic Engagement Chair, coordinating events and things of that nature that involve advocacy and civic engagement. Recently, I have become a member of the Swissvale Democratic Committee, where I'll be serving as secretary. I'm also in school. I attend Morehouse College in their online program, where I'm finishing my degree in political science, and for the past 2 years, I've had a perfect 4.0 GPA, and there are transcripts available upon request. Now, why I want to take this position is because I'm very passionate about this. This is something I've been working on for the past 2 years. As some of you may know, even out on the live stream that I ran back in 2021, I bring passion to this. I bring a life of service to this. I've served with AmeriCorps. I've been in politics since before I could even vote, when I volunteered with the Obama campaign back in 2008. I want to be able to bring resources like I did in 2021, where I was able to work with the Central Outreach Wellness Center on the north side and bring a vaccine clinic to Swissvale, which got over 100 Swissvalians and people in surrounding areas vaccinated. I also bring a newer generation. So I am Black and queer, as everyone may know, but I want to bring somebody who looks like me to this. We have been, over the past few years, having more events when it comes to Juneteenth and Pride. And I want to see people who look like me fight for equity on our council. I want to be a part of the change to bring sustainability in the environment to Swissvale, whether that's through making Swissvale a more bikeable borough or a more walkable, and just bringing more greenery to the city. Most definitely, I want to be someone who the people of Swissvale can rely on. As someone who's come from low income and has worked my way up to what I'm doing now, I understand how important it is to work hard, but I also understand the struggles that I went through to get to this process. And I want to be part of the change to make it easier for those behind me to do so.
Great, thank you so much for sharing and your interest in this position. I want to open it up if there are any other council members that would like to ask Mr. Quinn any questions.
Sure. Hi, Fred.
Hi.
It's Josh. And I will ask the same question of all the potential appointees. If you could just tell me briefly, what is one thing that you think is great about Swissvale, and what is one thing that you think could use work in Swissvale?
Definitely. So I think the diversity of Swissvale is something that, for one, attracted me here, and is great about Swissvale. There's all different creeds of people in this borough, and it brings the beauty to Swissvale. It attracts people here. Outside of this meeting, I'd like to call Swissvale the gateway to the Mon Valley, because we are that open door to lead into the Mon Valley. One thing that may need some work in Swissvale is maybe the environment and sustainability, making Swissvale more green efficient, making sure our roads are paved, making sure there is more greenery, there's more playgrounds for our children. I think that's something that we can work on.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ms. Scales, I see your hand is raised. Go ahead and ask a question.
Hi there.
Hello.
So I'm pretty sure it's been brought to your attention in terms of the time commitment.
Yep.
The time commitment that many of us did not know we were going to enter into. What are your thoughts in terms of being able to, meet some of the demands that this position requires of us by way of time that you have to give to it?
Thank you for that question, Weldy Ann. So I've given that a lot of thought. And even although I was the first person to submit my letter of intent, I got to talk to both of my bosses before so. And the good thing is my main job is the Penn State University job, which is a hybrid job, and I do set my own schedule. What that means is that makes me more available for daytime meetings and if we need to meet in person. I was actually talking to my boss from Penn State, and he said a quote that kind of stuck with me. He said, when you're walking in your purpose, time is not a factor. And I agree with that because as you can see, I juggle many hats. I've been able to do this on top of being able to enjoy myself and enjoy the hard work that I've put in. So when I think about it is, I understand how heavy of a commitment it can be, but I'm also here to do what I need to do to make sure that I'm here for the people of Swissvale.
I love that quote. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you so much for replying. That is the only question I have.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from council? All right. Well, Mr. Quid, thanks for your time. You're welcome to stick around if you want to listen to the rest of the interviews, or you're welcome to sign off as well at this time.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Sure. Absolutely. All right. Next, I would like to bring up to the forefront Miss Jacqueline Hill. Miss Hill, I don't know if you're able to unmute your video. Perfect. Thank you. Miss Hill, the question that I will ask you, and then I assume Mr. Miser and Miss Scales will ask their successive questions as well. But if you could take a moment to introduce yourself, share why you are interested in this position and what you would bring to it.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. I am Jackie Hill. I am a resident of Swissvale for the last 12 years. And I have a broad background in economic development, business, and finance. I think that the skill set that I bring would be very beneficial to the community because I feel that there is opportunity for growth and to increase the revenue. All of the city governments, county governments, we're all struggling in terms of revenue. And I think the value that I bring and some of the expertise, particularly around economic development, would bring real value to the residents here in Swissvale. I am currently a committee woman, and I am secretary of the Allegheny County Democratic Party. So that allows me to bring a lot of relationships and to the table to have some conversations about how do we increase opportunity and revenue and resources for the Swissvale community. My self-interest is I live here, and I want it to be a safe and healthy neighborhood for myself and for all those who live here.
Wonderful. Thank you for your application and your interest and sharing some of those thoughts in here. Mr. Miser, would you like to ask your question?
Yeah, I'd also like to echo thank you for your interest. And as I asked the first applicant, what is one thing that you think is great about Swissvale, and what is one area that you see as maybe a challenge or something that Swissvale could improve upon?
What is great about Swissvale is community. There's a real sense of community here in Swissvale, which is why I enjoy living here. One of our challenges, I think, is vacant properties and trying to get these properties back onto the tax roll. One of the ways I see how we would be able to increase revenue by assessing housing stock, determining what could be rehabbed presently, and what needs to be demoed in order to look at a second phase of infill housing. And so I think community is the biggest benefit and value that I think this community offers.
Thank you.
Ms. Scales, you can take it away.
Thank you. Hi, Miss Jackie. So I
I'm
have been,
sorry, I can't hear her.
oh, can you hear me, Miss Jackie?
Ms. Hill, it's Weldy. Weldy, do you mind if I ask your question?
Yes, go ahead. I don't mind.
Okay, thank you. So Ms. Hill, it was Weldy Anscale. She was saying, hi, Miss Jackie. That's what she was saying on the front end. The question that she has been asking is, this is a substantial time commitment. Many of us who are on council did not realize it when we entered into it. And so the question was, how available are you? How can you manage that time commitment to be available for the work of the borough?
I would reprioritize many of the things that I'm currently working on, because again, I agree. I think this is a serious responsibility and has to be taken as such. So for me, it would be a matter of some things that I am engaged in, I probably would no longer be engaged in, because this would be improving the quality of my life along with that of my neighbors. And I take that very seriously.
Thank you. Thanks for that honesty. I know last year I had to go through it. That was my year of lightning. I had to find things that step away from to make room for the things that I've said yes to. So thank you. Well, Ms. Hill, thank you so much for your interest. You're welcome to stick around if you want to listen to the other interviews, or you can enjoy the rest of your evening. But again, I just want to say how much I appreciate your just all the interest that we've had and your willingness to serve this community. All right, let's move to Mr. David Miller. So, Mr. Miller.
Is everybody able to hear me first off?
We can hear you. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're interested in this position and what you would bring to it.
My name is David J. Miller. I've been a borough resident since 2001. I've owned a home with my wife on Union Avenue for just about 20 years now. I came to the borough for an opportunity to be employed by the borough back in June of 2000, when I was, as my letter of intent said, I was lucky to get on with the borough as a part-time firefighter while I was going through the civil service process to become a full-time deputy fire chief, which I did get and served the borough for 20 years until my retirement. As far as the borough is amazing to me. I've been asked many, many times by people, oh, now that you don't work for Swissville, you can move out now. And I'm like, no, why would I ever move out? I'm like, it's a great community. For everything I've ever attended here with the fire department, from community days to the parades to everything. It's just a really great town to live in. And again, now that I am retired from the fire department, we are lucky enough to have a combination fire department. So once I retired, I was able to join as a volunteer. Excuse my appearance. That's where I'm at right now, making halushki for the fish fry this coming weekend. So I want to keep serving the community. I have been in public safety pretty much my whole career, including my time in the Naval Reserves. And I just think it's a great way to continue serving the citizens and the visitors of Swissville, because I see a very bright future for this borough.
Thank you so much. Mr. Miser.
Yes. Hi, Mr. Miller. Thank you. Thank you for your interest and thank you for your service to Swissvale over the years. My question for you is the same as it's been for the others. So you've been here for 21 years. At this point in history, for Swissvale, what's one thing that you think is great about Swissvale? You already stated some of those things, but one thing in particular, and what's one challenge or something that you feel that Swissvale as a borough could improve on?
Well, I will start with your second part and I have to unfortunately agree with the last applicant. It is our blight. I know what it was like working 20 years for the borough with code enforcement being put into the fire department and trying to fight the blight problem. Blight does nothing but bring the town down when you're trying to revitalize or you're trying to promote, when you're trying to do anything positive. Blight is our biggest problem right now. It's a tough fight. I know it. I've worked part-time as a code enforcement officer for other municipalities, so it's not just unique to Swissville. It is a regional problem. that I'm actually going to be getting on a committee, hopefully through another town that I'm associated with for a blight committee through the COG. So that's the only one that I would say is if you want to call it a negative, it's just a fight. But the two most positive things about this town are, number one, it is the diversity of this town. I'm originally from North Versailles. We did not have the diversity that this borough has. And I really enjoy the diversity. I've met so many people in this borough in my 20 years. I've been in so many houses. I've been in so many businesses on all the calls I've been on. So I've seen every aspect of the diversity of this town. And the other thing is, and I promote this all the time when people say things about Swissvale or try to be negative about our town, is the value we have as citizens for this town, for the tax dollars we pay and the services that we get, they're second to none. They're second to none. My dad always says in North Versailles, he doesn't get the services I get from a police department, a combination fire department, the code enforcement, to our DPW, to our own garbage company. The value of Swissvale is incredible, in my opinion.
Thank you so much. Ms. Scales, do you want to try again?
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Miller, for applying. I have the same question, which is the time commitment. There is a time commitment that is not so much required, but needed to fulfill the duties of the role, but actually do, some of the significant change that you mentioned. What are your plans in terms of time management and being able to commit to the time that's needed to fulfill the duties of the role?
Well, I've thought about that a lot, and this is basically the perfect time of my life. I will be turning 55 in April. I do work full time for Children's Hospital as a public safety dispatcher and informations coordinator. So I'm lucky now that I was able to retire from the fire department and have a single job. I've always worked multiple jobs in my life, so that's one good thing, is I don't have to juggle multiple jobs. I know how much time is. I know it just from sitting in the audience, from watching council people over the years, between committees that you serve on, not only in the borough, but all the different committees that are out there. I'm fortunate that I have weekdays off. I'm off Wednesday, Thursdays, which is great for stuff like that. And I work 6 to 2, so I'm out at 2 o'clock every day. But the biggest thing is that for the first time in my life that I would have never done this if I didn't think that I would be able to fulfill the duties. And if I was still in a place in my life where I was working multiple jobs and this and that, I wouldn't be talking to you folks right now. I'm there now. So I'm just that type one. Unfortunately, my wife says whenever you try to do something, you go overboard, because I take it serious. It's a commitment. And if I'm willing to stand here and talk to you folks and have the chance to make the commitment, you better live up to that commitment.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Miller, for your interest and the experience that you bring and your just willingness to serve this community. So thanks for taking some time with us tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Before we move on to the next one, I don't know if someone from council is able to reach out, or someone on this call, to Mr. Barry. I know Sarah has tried to reach out to him. He's not connected to audio right now. And so I just we have one more interview before he comes up, and want to see if we can troubleshoot and triage his situation before he comes up. So I don't know if someone, or even if I'll want to just take a moment and message him.
I'll try to message him on Facebook.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Miser. Okay. While he is doing that, let's call Mr. Kevin Hayes up. There he is. Mr. Haynes, I think I said Hayes. I apologize, Mr. Haynes. Thank you so much for your interest in this appointment, this vacancy. If you could take a moment to introduce yourself, share why you are interested in this position and what you would bring to it.
Great. Well, first, I want to thank everyone for the opportunity to speak with you tonight. There are many reasons why. Well, first of all, my name is Kevin Haynes. I've been a resident of Swissville since 2016. There's many reasons why I want to serve on council. I've lived in Swissville twice. The first time I lived here in the late 90s prior to leaving to move to South America. Later, I returned to this community that I love in 2016 to purchase my first home with my husband. When I chose to settle down, buy a house, and get a dog, well, two, I chose to do so here in Swissville because of a deep appreciation of what this community was and is, and also with a truly hopeful heart of what our community can be for everyone. I would welcome the opportunity to play an active role in the great things that are happening currently in Swissville and be part of what's next. I've spent my entire adult life advocating for those on the margins. My unique set of experiences brings a different voice and perspective to the borough of Swissville and council. I've been active in the LGBTQ plus community since I was 17 years old. I have an unwavering commitment to not only visibility, but also supporting those who feel that they're not seen, so they're not alone. In my professional career, I've worked in the labor movement for nearly 10 years, where I've spent my entire career learning from workers, empowering workers, and building bridges to obtain the best outcomes for our union members and their families. Prior to coming to the labor movement, I worked for the people of Puerto Rico in the U.S. House of Representatives and for the governor later of Puerto Rico. My focus in this role was to promote livable communities and rallying support amongst constituents and elected federal officials to invest necessary funds to modernize the Veterans Hospital in Puerto Rico. After years of collaborative efforts with the veterans groups and other organizations, we secured the funding at the time when investment in veterans services was on the decline. I also worked at the Allegheny Conference on Community Development, where I focused on increasing infrastructure funding, promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion across the 10-county region, and highlighting communities' needs through their strengthening community partnership, which Swissville is a part of. My vision for the future is a more diverse, more inclusive, more equitable community where all are represented in their government and see themselves in their communities. We do this through representation, getting out into the community and hearing from those most impacted by the decisions made at council. If so chosen for this appointment, I would build bridges and collaborate for a strong future for Swissville and to push our dreams of what our community can be to the limit.
Thank you so much for sharing that perspective and sharing your interest in this position. I'll turn it over to Mr. Miser.
Good evening, Mr. Haynes. Thank you for your interest. As I've asked the other potential appointees, if you could just expand upon what you think is one of what's something you think is great about Swissvale, an asset to Swissvale, and then also on the other side, something that's a challenge or something Swissvale you think could do better to improve upon.
Well, I think I'm going to echo a little bit of what everyone said, quite frankly, because this experience right now is what's great about Swissvale. We have an amazing community of smart people who are passionate and committed to their communities. But unfortunately, we suffer from blight and we suffer from our business district that's not welcoming, quite frankly, there's litter everywhere. We are not attracting the businesses and the investment in our community that we need to thrive. We're not creating spaces for what's next. Our business district should be someplace where we gather together, all of us, all of our community as one united community. We've got a little bit of everything. We're a microcosm of what's great in the world. It's our differences that make Swissvale Swissvale. And I think that, quite frankly, we need to promote that. We need to tell people about that. I mean, everyone knows about which exit is Swissvale. It's the Kennywood exit. Everybody knows, no matter within a 100-mile radius, people are like, where's Swissvale? It's the Kennywood exit. I want it to be more than just that. I want it to be a destination place where, on Swissvale Day, you come and you walk through, downtown Noble Street and stop in shops, visit people, see the greatness that we all bring. I think our community needs to be reflected in our business district and other areas as well. We need to take our community that step further.
Thank you. Maybe that needs to be our new borough slogan, not just the Kennywood exit.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Scales.
Hi, Kevin. So I'm going to ask you the same question there is a serious time commitment. What is your plans in terms of being able to meet the time that is needed to fulfill this role?
So I don't do anything half. That's just my personality. I'm not afraid of long hours, long days. I work 7 days a week. I'm engaged 7 days a week, whether it be in my job or in things that are interesting to me or of interest. I have the ability to make my schedule, arrange my meetings around other things. I'm committed to building what's next for Swissville and for our community. And that, for me, is my name and my word. And my word comes with it, my honesty. And I will make the time and have the time and commit to being available. I've thought about it as well. It is a time commitment. I see what you all do. I see you all everywhere. So I'm already there at some of those meetings anyway. So I'll just wear two hats. But I don't do anything half. I would be available and I would be around and a great partner, I hope, to all of you.
Thank you so much. And you're right. You do not do anything half.
All right, thanks. I'm not sure who is screen sharing right now.
It looks like Nick
yeah.
Caligaris.
Patrolman or Officer Caligaris, do you mind? Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Okay, Mr. Haynes, thank you so much for your interest, and you can stick around if you want to listen to the last interview or sign off and enjoy the rest of your night, but thank you for taking some time with us tonight.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. All right, our last candidate of interest is Mr. Frank Berry. Frank, I don't know, or Mr. Berry, I don't know if you're able to unmute your audio and video so we can ask you a few questions.
Okay, hello, how's that working, guys?
Well, we can hear you. Are you able to unmute your video?
Unfortunately, I'm at the library, guys,
Okay.
and they were my tech support, and they just left. So I'm out on the porch of the library. I'm sorry. They closed
okay.
at 7.
That's
They're
okay.
getting in their vehicles right now.
All right. Well, that's okay. Well, we'll just I know many of us know who you are, and so we know what you look like. We know a face with the name. So we'll go forward with asking our questions. So, Mr. Berry, my question, you have 3 of them tonight. My question is the first one. If you could introduce yourself and share why you are interested in this position and what you would bring to it.
Yes, hello. My name. Good evening, everybody. My name's Frank Berry. I went to the former Swissville High School for 3 years. I graduated in 1988 from the merged Woodland Hills High School. Unique things about me. My parents were born here. I had ancestors before them that were born here, married here, died here, were buried here till 1908 when the Switch complex built a new office building, and they were moved to other graveyards. So there's a deep connection here. We were here way before the borough was founded in 1898, and I didn't do too bad. I mean, I had asthma. I knew the value of fresh air and grew out of that and got to do something I never thought I'd do, especially being 5 foot tall. And that was to serve in the Marines for 10 years, 6 months, 13 days. And let me tell you, just with the forced marches they have, the hard work you got to do paperwork, you got to be well-rounded. Needless to say, if I hadn't grown out of that asthma and the air hadn't cleared, I wouldn't have been able to do that. And I was very blessed because at the time I was leaving in 2000, they had set up that you could get a pension earlier. I'd served in the Gulf, and so that helped. And then the Veterans Affairs Medical, they're wonderful. So one of my interests, as far as the community goes, would be to give back. And what happened, I took care of my parents, both my mother and father, for the first 6 years. Out of 23 years, the last 15 was my mom. I saved the government a lot of money by being able to do that and by being able to be with them. And I've worked I volunteered at the food pantry. I know that we got people that aren't doing so great, but there's people that cycle in and out of that. It's very humbling when you see the root concerns of your community. And if you can do something to help a person, Well, why wouldn't you want to do that? So I have the time to do it. I would want to go to the local government academy, want to be one of the first things I'd want to do. And in addition to that, I have the time to fully serve out the term, and I would be dedicated to that. And 3 times I underwent the oath of enlistment in the military, so I know what it's like to take an oath and to keep one's promises. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for your interest in this. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Miser for the next question.
Good evening, Mr. Berry.
Good evening.
First of all, thank you for your service to the country, and having such deep roots in Swissvale. My question is the same as what I've asked the others. First, what is one thing that you think is great about Swissvale, and what is one thing that you think is a challenge, something that Swissvale could improve upon?
The number one thing I would have to say, I know Monroeville, they would have built 3 times on this structure, and everybody else wishes they had it. I'm right here right now. It would have to be the Swissvale Carnegie Free Library. This is one of the few places where you can really get good photocopying done, send faxes. You need to network, you need information, it's entertainment, it's all sorts of things. And they help very much with resumes and, getting people to services or even housing. Even how to fill out these sort of things. They have temporarily here right now a social worker. That's not always the case. So definitely the first thing I'm thinking about, been here since 1917, designed by a local man, the Swissvale Carnegie Free Library. Things we need to work on. Obviously, we want to get the businesses sustained. We want to have the infrastructure for that. Carry Furnace is a big part of our future. That's being worked on. The trails that are going to connect to Memorial Field, preparing for that. And I wanted to bring up something about Memorial Field. 50 years, I was 4 years old in 1973. It was the 75th anniversary of the borough. And that was a big deal because that was only a few years rather from the first Earth Day. That was a vision that took over 37 years. So even when a person doesn't do a full term, they will have an influence and a reach to the future that's going to be very vital. So everything from our churches, our street layout, all this different stuff, people were thinking. The busway, that took years to do. So it's very important to have a vision. And I do agree. I participated in the cleanup days, many ones and the big ones. That's why it's very important for the street sweeper. Yes, we have a lot of traffic going through the town. And one of the number one things, because it's a vision issue, is yes, the trash and if that can be recycled, but of course, but we've had a lot of innovative stuff. Trying to do composting, pollinator garden. I wish we had Swissvale farms. Maybe one day we will, like Braddock Farms. And I don't think we have anything that we can't overcome. Sometimes it's getting enough people to do it. But that's the one thing I can say about Swissvale for over 100 years. It has grown, it has adapted, and Swissvale yet survives. So that's the hope of the community. But I know the first visual thing, especially going through the business district, is if there's any litter lying around. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Scales, you can ask the final question.
Hi, Frank.
Good evening.
I already know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it.
Okay.
There's a serious time commitment to fulfill the duties of this role. What are your plans in being able to meet the time demands to fulfill the duties of this role?
The first thing, Madam Vice President Scales, is I do not have responsibilities as far as children or anything like that goes. So literally, if I get the text, the knock on the door, the call at 2 a.m, It's like you have to be ready to leave for something like the Persian Gulf. I am ready. I am ready. So I'm going to be 7 out of 7. And like Jones Gross would say, teach me. That's why it's very important that I local government academy. But I do not have, I don't go on vacation. So I'm not going to have to cancel vacation to take care of some emergency that might pop up. We've seen the past couple of years how important it is to be flexible. When I say I have the time to commit to it, I'm absolutely serious. And there's a lot of events that occur outside council meetings. I'm aware of that. And I'm also very aware that it's stressful. So I'm ready to do that 100% and beyond.
Thank you so much, Frank, for your commitment to our borough.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Berry, thank you for taking some time this evening with us. Thank you for your interest in serving the borough, the community in this way. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you so much. And the same to you as well. Good evening.
Thanks. Okay, just to let everyone know that this is, so today is March 1st. We will be meeting in 3 weeks on March 22nd, and that is the date that we will have a vote to appoint one of those 5 individuals to the vacant seat that has been left as Ms. Abigail Salisbury was elected to the PA House of Representatives. So that is what is coming down the pike shortly. Okay, well, let's move on to our meeting, our legislative meeting. So for those who are tuning in, I want to welcome you to the Borough of Swissvale regular council meeting for March 1st, 2023. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 7:14 p.m. and let's go through roll call. Miss Alfonso Wells.
Present.
Mr. Miser.
Here.
Mr. Price.
Here.
Miss Scales.
Here.
Miss Stribling.
Here.
Mayor Schwartzwelder.
Here.
We had one individual for public comment. I'm not sure if they are on right now. Could that presumably be Vel's iPad that signed on? Sarah, do you know?
That should be, yes.
Okay, they have not connected to audio at this point in time. So what I'm going to do is let's kind of leapfrog public comment while they perhaps get situated and move on to our Meet the Police, and then we'll circle back to that after Meet the Police. So we're going to go 1, 2, 4, 3. That's the numbers in our agenda if you're following at home. So item 4 is Meet the Police. Let's start with Officer Nick Caligeris. Nick, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself and what you love about being a Swissvale police officer.
Sure. You guys can hear me now?
We can.
Hi, my name is Nick Caligeris. I've been with Swissvale since 2006, and I've been living in Swissvale now 12 years. So I like being a police officer, but I like living here also. Right now, our police department's up at the junior high, and 14 years ago, I was the school resource officer up at the junior high. So that's kind of neat going back up to the school, and we're all looking forward to down the road getting a new borough building and police station.
Well, thank you so much for your service and giving us some time. I don't know if anyone else from council has any questions or comments for Mr. Caligeris.
I just want to thank you so much for your service as well in appearing here today. You're one of the reasons why I'm happy that we are doing the Meet the Police. Unfortunately, I can't meet all of you guys as much as I would love to, but this gives not only myself as the chair, but the community to see you. Like, wow, here we got an officer who's been here for years that also lives in our community. Thank you so much for showing up.
You're welcome. Hey, on a little nice note, let me tell you a quick little story. It'll take 30 seconds. 15 years ago, the mayor and Sergeant Costa surprised me, and they fixed me up on a date with a lady from Swissvale. We're still together 15 years later, and we've been married since 2016. So it worked out good for me here in Swissvale.
Oh, so you're reliable.
That is a great story. Thank you for sharing. It's like a lifetime movie, in the making.
Yes, I definitely like the way you keep circling around, that you're a resident, that you actually worked at the high school. Are you anywhere close to where you would have had your office back when you were a resource officer?
Yes, we're real close. We're one door away from where the office is for the police department now. So, yeah.
Isn't that funny how life will circle you back and you're just like, oh my goodness. But if you hadn't made the choices that you made, you never would have gotten back to where you were.
That is true. And I run into so many of the young kids at the time. Now they're young adults on the street and they say, Officer K, you remember me from school? Do you remember? And that's a nice feeling too. So.
We're so grateful for you officers putting up with the long ordeal of replacing the borough building, and how flexible that the police department and admin have been through this whole process.
Oh, thanks, Mr. Price.
Well, thank you again for joining us this evening. Appreciate the work that you do.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to take a nap before I go into night for night turn.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care. Hello, man.
Thanks, Nick.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right, let's move on to our next Meet the Police individual, Sergeant Tony Costa. Sergeant Costa, if you can, there you are. Can you tell us I don't know if you're able to unmute your audio and video, but if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and what you enjoy about being a Swissvale police officer. So Sergeant Costa, we can't hear you. I don't know if you are able to unmute your audio and video. Can you hear us, Sergeant Costa?
President Ansel, I'm trying to get a hold of him. I know he was there.
Yeah, he had popped on earlier, and it says he's unmuted now. Not sure why it's not working. Well, we'll just give.
Sometimes they might need to sign off and sign back on because of the way he might not have connected completely to the audio. But that's my non-IT specialist move. Just turn it off and turn it back on.
The first thing to tell. Oh, there he is, Sergeant Costa. Can you hear us, Sergeant Costa? Can you hear us? It's, yeah, he's talking, but nothing's coming through. Well, we're having all kinds of technical difficulties. One of these days we'll be back in person and we won't have the technological learning curve on this. Okay, let's see. So is Mr. Bell on? Bill says not connected to audio. Sarah, did you email Daryl at all to let him know?
I haven't been able to get a hold of him.
Okay, thanks. Well, I guess we'll just keep moving through, and if Sergeant Costa is able to get his technology working, we can circle back to him. Let's move on to item 5, which is the recognition. So this is a continuation from last week from the DEI committee, recognition of Woodland Hills Rising Star, Miss Robin Proctor. So I'm not sure, Miss Scales, are you going to be taking the lead on that?
Yes, thank
Great.
you so much, President Ansel. So for Black History Month, for those of you who were able to attend, you're aware that we recognize for Black History Month our very own. And we recognize Summer Lee, also Beasley Plumbing, and also Salon Blue. We also wanted to give recognition to our youth because we have some youth out here that are doing some fantastic work. So for Black History Month this year, 2023, we wanted to recognize Woodland Hills Rising Shining Star. And her name is Miss Robin Proctor. She's also a Swissvale resident, you guys. She is an 11th grader. at the Woodland Hills High School. She is a student leader at the high school, and she also participated in the Student Summit as well. She is a member of the National Honor Society, and she also engages in community service as well. She is also a member of the Black Student Union at the high school. And she states that she strives for great grades, and her average is a 3.6 GPA. What she likes to do is play video games and binge watch TV. So I would like to honor Ms. Robin Proctor this year. On behalf of the Swissvale Borough, we want to recognize you for your efforts, and we want to encourage you to continue to do the great work and continue to strive for greatness, because you are there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ms. Scales. I'm excited that we are able to honor some of the students. I know we have a lot of students in our community who work very, very hard. And it's just great to hear just the rundown of her involvement in the community and her academics, and that she does take some time to binge watch and play video games. That's good that she has some hobbies too. So I know she was not able to join us tonight, but we, Ms. Scales and the DEI committee will be providing a plaque to her in honor and recognition of this award appointment this year. So thank you for all the work that the DEI committee has done to make this a regular part of our annual celebration of Black History Month. Okay, let's try going back to item 4. Sergeant Costa, are you able to hear us? And unmute your mute audio and video.
He was there a minute ago. There were 3 of him. Now there's 2. I did see him pop up on one of them. So he's in the ether. He's there somewhere.
And let's see, I don't see, we lost one of them. Chief Watson, are you on right now?
Yes, sir. I believe he's having connection issues. I called him and spoke with him. He said he would get it to work and then it would kick him off, and he has since disappeared. No, he's here.
He's still here. There were 2 of them. Sergeant Costa, can you hear us?
There we go. Oh, he was there.
You could see him, but I don't know if we're able to hear each other. Can you hear us, Sergeant Costa?
Tony, can you hear us?
So, Ms. Scales and Chief Watson, since we're having connection issues with this, would you be willing to kind of bump Sergeant Costa to next month? And would that be okay with you, Ms. Scales?
Perfectly fine.
And Chief Watson, if maybe you can sometime between now and then just do some work with him troubleshooting, because I'm not, like you said, we can see him, but he doesn't seem to be able to hear us.
Yes. I will get it. I'll let him know, and I'll get it taken care of for next month. Yes,
that sounds good. Thank you. Thank you so much for the flexibility in that. Sorry that didn't work. Well, we look forward to meeting Sergeant Costa next month. Let's see if we can go back to public comment. Daryl Bell, Mr. Bell, are you online now? Are you able to unmute your audio and/or video? Mr. Bell, can you hear us and unmute audio, please?
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sorry. Thank you for your patience and flexibility.
No problem. Well, good evening to everyone. Beautiful summer day here in Swissvale. So I'd like to discuss a couple things real quick. I'd like to see if I can get an update on the vacant properties in down in our area off of Lomont Drive. I'd like to highlight one. I don't know if Greg is there tonight, but I've had a lot of communications about 91 Lomont Drive. where we had a family that their mother was up in age, and the son, from understanding, inherited the property. And we've had raccoons and you name it. We've had coming in and out of the this particular house, and it's a nice 2-story brick, but every year, I'm not an engineer or anything like that, but I would imagine that water and other things are getting into that property. Also, I'd like to highlight going down Farkas, there is a ranch home there, and it looks like the windows are busted out. And if you walk down towards Woodstock, there is one house that has a fence, and then against this fence, there's all kinds of black bags. And the yard is completely covered as well. Also, I like to put a focus on, well, the people that know it used to be Vic's Putt-Putt Golf Course. I don't know if anyone lives there or not, but there's a whole bunch of trash there. Also, what else do I want to highlight? That if you guys need any help, if I could, take you to these locations, whatever I need to do. I don't want to be a part of the problem. I want to be a part of getting things pointing in the right direction. I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bell. Sorry, I didn't mean to interject. Is there more that you wanted to share?
No, not really, other than the fact that I'm more than willing to help any way I can. And I look forward to Swissville continue to grow.
Thank you. Thank you so much for taking some time with us and sharing some of these needs. So, Mr. Batchy, when you get to the manager's report, I know you had an opportunity to speak to Mr. Bell prior to tonight. Can you just share a little bit about some of these properties and kind of what, I know Mr. Bell asked for an update, and I think just overall, not that I expect you to say anything necessarily about it tonight, but I think one of the things we really need to figure out, as even came up in our interviews for the appointees for the vacant position, is just blight. How do we deal with blight? And I know you and I have had some offline conversations about that, but maybe we can brainstorm what that might look like.
Yep, will do.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank
All right,
you.
well, Mr. Bell, you feel free to tune in. I know when Mr. Batchy gets to his report, he'll be able to share that. And I know you guys are going to be able to be in contact as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 6, which are council actions. We're going to move to item A first, sub item A under minutes. So if someone wants to make a motion, I would entertain it.
I make the motion I move to approve the minutes of the January 25th, 2023 council agenda meeting and the February 1st, 2023 council meeting.
I second that.
All right. Motion is on the table. Is there any discussion around those minutes? Hearing none, let's vote. All in favor of approving the motion as read in the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, let's move down to finance. Does anyone want to make a motion about our bills?
I move to approve the Borough of Swissvale paid bills in the amount of $207,802.72. Yeah, that's my motion.
That's why I do it, Sean.
Trip me up all the apostrophes and the dot there, but there you go. Come on, second me out. Second me out. We got to pay these bills. Second.
All right, thank you. All right, motion's on the table. Any questions or comments about this motion? Discussion? All right, hearing none, let's vote. All in favor of approving this motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Let's move on to item C, personnel, and we have a part-time police contract to
I
move through.
move to approve the part-time police officers amendment to the collective bargaining agreement between Swissvale Borough and the Swissvale Police Officers Association for the years 2022 to 2026.
And I will second that. Sorry.
Motion's on the table. Any discussion? I know we talked about this a little bit last week. All right, hearing none, let's vote. All in
I'm
favor?
so sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead.
I didn't get to the mic fast enough.
That's okay.
If we could just give a little bit of background, I know we can't share too much about anything that's legal, but if we could just give a little bit of background
Sure.
in terms of this change.
Yeah.
Chief, or
Mr.
whoever else
Bacci,
would like
I
to
know
do it.
last week Mr. Bacci shared kind of what the changes were. So Mr. Bacci, do you mind sharing that again tonight?
Sure. The wages, the main thing is the wages, they increase to $22 an hour for 2023 and then a 3% increase for the next 3 years. It's 5-year contract for 2022 to 26. There's no wage increase for 2022. But it does go to $22 an hour in 23. There's an increase in uniform allowance of $25 per year in 2023 and 2025. 2 additional holidays were added, which are Martin Luther King Day and Juneteenth. Their meal and parking allowance for court appearances, which changed from a maximum of $25 reimbursement to a maximum of $10 for food, plus their actual parking costs. And their detail time was changed so that if they work a detail where we are being reimbursed, they will receive time and a half pay whether they've worked 40 hours in the week yet or not. And those are the only changes. There are 5 changes.
And I would add that we have very few part-time police officers, so this has an extremely minimal impact on our budget.
Yeah.
And even if we did have more, this would be great because it would still impact our budget like in the positive direction to pay part-time officers instead of pay overtime.
Correct.
Yes.
All right. Are we ready to vote now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So all in favor of the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Let's move on to item D, contracts.
I move to approve an agreement with Sable Kennels to provide animal control services to the borough for the period of March 1st, 2023 through February 28th, 2025, as per the agreement presented.
I second it.
Wonderful. Motions on the table. Any discussion on this motion? All right. I know last week, if I remember correctly, it was an increase of $50 a month from $150 to $200 for their retainer fee, as well as kind of a cancellation fee they still would charge us if they're already en route and we cancel. Are those the 2 big changes to it?
Those are the only 2 changes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion?
Just regarding that cancellation fee, are the only calls made to that organization from the police department, or can the public reach out directly to Sable Kennels?
No.
I didn't think so. I just wanted to make sure those calls come from the borough.
Yeah, they come from County 911 only, which our police request 911 to make the call.
Okay, thank you.
That's a helpful clarification. All right, let's vote on this motion. All in favor of reading the motion as read, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Please say nay. Any abstentions? Motion carries. Let's move to item E, which is emergency management resolution.
I move to approve resolution 23-04, authorizing the promulgation of the emergency operations plan for emergency management.
Second.
Wonderful. Motions on the table. As we discussed last week, this is a private document. We were able to go to the fire department to see it. for review as council members, not the general public. But this is what we would kind of our protocol in the event of an emergency. We talked a lot about the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, as kind of an example of why this is necessary. We are required to readopt this or repromulgate it every 2 years so that we are able to access FEMA monies if necessary. Did I summarize that well enough, Mr. Batchy? Great. Any other discussion on it? All right, let's call the question. All in favor of approving the motion as read, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right, that is the end of our business. Let's move on to our reports. Our first report comes from the COG. I know Ms. Scales, your name is usually on there. I know sometimes Ms. Stribling gives the report. I don't know who is on for tonight, but let's talk about the COG.
Well, our meeting will not be until March 23rd. The February event was the annual dinner. So there is nothing to report other than there was an annual dinner.
Okay, thanks so much. That was a quick one. All right, let's move on to item 2, which is Connect, Miss Alfonso Wells.
Yes, Connect is doing all of its connections this month as usual. I think there's a meeting, I want to say tomorrow. Josh, did you sign up for that? I think Josh said he was signing up for that. I think it was tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or
I thought it was, I'll double check. I was thinking it was like the 11th, a little bit later.
That was like the 15th, right?
Yeah, I thought it was like
15th.
mid-month, but I will.
Is this on
Well,
the
maybe one of them-
transportation?
The transportation one, yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yes.
That's tomorrow and on the 22nd.
Okay.
Thank you. I thought I was crazy for a moment. I was like, man, my schedule just too full. Okay. I know one day was like at a council meeting and there was
Yes.
one day that wasn't. So I think that's the one that isn't. And they said that they will give you dinner for sitting there. So there is that. So that meeting will take place tomorrow. There's also Lead. Lead had a big meeting today. I was not able to attend because I can't attend everything all of the time. And they had an in-person meeting. And of course, at my job, it is just crazy, crazy, crazy right now. But maybe Chief Watson attended that. But it was a huge meeting that they had downtown for today for the Lead project. And I think we're getting ready to actually launch. Is that correct, Chief Watson?
Yes, ma'am. I was at the meeting today, and we already have started referring social referrals to our case managers, and the project is moving in the next 2 weeks. 2 to 4 weeks, we'll have the social worker out in the community
That's
assisting us. So yes.
Thank you. That's fantastic. They didn't even need me to be there. It was really mostly a meeting for the social workers and the police departments. So I think I would have been an unnecessary cog in that wheel over there. They are also meeting in terms of fire safety. We've had a couple of meetings on that. And what was the other one? And we've had a board meeting where we have talked about where Connect is going and how it is changing its ties from the University of Pittsburgh and connecting in other places. So this is something that is something they've been talking about. They've also been talking about they're going to have a fund for boroughs that are unable to pay it's a very minimal fee that we pay to be a part of this great organization, but that would help other boroughs who are not as fortunate as ours be able to also join and form connections. Because the thing about Connect is it's not just about helping our own borough, it's about helping the region and really making connections with our neighbors. You know, what's the difference between Edgewood and Swissvale? You know, well, no, I know there's differences, right? But we're all neighbors in the end, right? So, and as we discussed last week, if there's a train derailment, we're all in that 1 mile area, including Homestead and every place else. So interestingly enough, many things are beginning to happen. A lot of their meetings are really revving up and they have them almost every week, every other week. So things are really heating up right now in terms of all the Connect meetings, and we are right at the center of it. Fortunately for Swissvale, I am the vice president of Connect at the moment, or vice chair, something like that. And so I do know, I have my hands in all of the little things. So we do hear about a lot of things first, and that is a good connection that we have. Here we go.
Wonderful. Thanks you so much for all your hard work and the work of Connect. They do great work. Let's move on to.
Sorry, and of course.
Oh, yes.
You are all invited to come to any of the meetings that we have with Connect. Please do not feel that you are unwelcome. We can have several members come. Josh has already been sucked in, or as we say, invited. And so any of you too can also come to any of those meetings. I don't want you to think that you're not wanted. You are.
Thank you. Thank you for that invitation. All right, let's move on to item 3 under F, which is building. Bill, I don't know if you have any updates or reports for the building team.
Well, we haven't had any meetings with the architects since the last meeting, but there's something I wanted to share that we discussed with the architects. I explained to the architects that coincidentally, we're going to be breaking ground on a new building the same year that we're having our 125th anniversary. And so we've discussed with the architects having a cornerstone for the building and installing a time capsule. So I started doing research, and you can actually buy waterproof time capsules on Amazon.com. Which you can buy anything on Amazon.com. So then that begs the question of, what do you put in a time capsule? And I've been fascinated with time capsules for years, and usually the contents are pretty boring. Usually they'll put coins from that period of time. Nobody cares. You can find those coins on eBay. They will put copies of the local newspaper from the time of the time capsule. I can find that on newspapers.com. But what I was thinking about, with if council agrees, is starting a program to encourage local citizens. I was thinking we could ask local citizens to write personal letters to the future. And they could discuss their families, they can pass on their recipes, whatever they want to say, with them being mindful that they might terribly embarrass their descendants 50 or 100 years from now. But I think that that's something that we might be able to work into celebrations later this year, whenever we break ground.
Thanks, Bill. I always appreciate your brainstorming and thinking outside the box of how to celebrate this this community we live in. Thanks. Okay, well, let's were you looking for feedback on that at all, or just reporting?
Just reporting.
Okay.
But I'd love to hear any feedback.
I've got a great pizza dough recipe I'll put in.
There you go.
All right, let's move in on, unless anyone else has anything they want to chime in. Okay, my report. So just a couple things I wanted to share about. Just again, reminder, I said this at the very beginning, after our interviews, that the next meeting that we're going to have is an adjusted schedule. We have advertised it, but it is going to be 3 weeks from tonight on March 22nd, 2023. That is when we will first call a meeting to order in order to appoint a resident for the vacant seat, and then we will continue with our normal agenda meeting. That's the only business that we will consider in that particular meeting. Then the legislative meeting for April will also be an adjusted schedule. This is one that we had put at the very beginning of the year, but because of Passover, we moved it from Wednesday, which is I believe the first night of Passover, to that Monday, April 3rd. So April 3rd is going to be the next legislative meeting for next month. Just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. We'll make sure that that is on, all social media and advertised in those ways so that residents are aware. I wanted to share that I had Greg and I, Mr. Batchy and I had a meeting earlier this week with Green Edge and Duquesne Light. We're continuing to make progress on the program that was started by Ms. Salisbury to put some EV chargers in the community. We are currently, I guess I can say, I don't know what I'm allowed to say and not, but we're looking right now at potentially putting them on Aurelia Street. They're kind of next to the soccer field of Dixon. Green Edge had done some pretty thorough research as to where we can have the greatest impact. They have a whole spreadsheet of how they analyze data of what percentage of residents, whether or not it's in an environmental justice zone, a lot of things like that. So we are looking to, in the next couple of weeks, to put an application into Duquesne Light for their grant program to install the infrastructure for us. We would be potentially, if the timeline goes well, we would be voting on that in that April meeting to enter into a partnership with Green Edge and Duquesne Light. Again, as more information comes available, we'll let it know. I know this is some of this is happening a little quickly, but Duquesne Light has money that is set aside that basically builds all the infrastructure up to the concrete pillar of which we would put the charging station. And so this is we were highly encouraged by Duquesne Light to make the progress. But again, we're not agreeing on anything. We're just applying, showing a letter of interest. The contract would not be signed without council approval. But ideally on that April meeting, we might have more information to be able to discuss that. So I think those are the primary things. I've been having a lot of conversations with, I know the mayor, Deneen, and I spoke today about some initiatives. I was having some conversations with folks from SEDCO and Rotary about just a number of things that there are a lot of residents that want to see movement on some of these things that feel like they've stalled out, whether they be the walking trails or the parklet. And so trying to see what we can do to complete, dot our I's, cross our T's, and actually make progress on some of these things. So more to come on that in the future. And I think that's all I've got to share tonight. Mayor's report. Deneen, would you like to, Mayor Schwartzwalder, want to share?
Yes, so that's a great segue into my reports with, I'll start with SEDCO. So SEDCO would like to get involved with the trails and be a part of the meetings. They want to possibly form a trail group that we could meet on a regular basis and be updated with what's going on with the walking trail and the bike trails and the trail going down to Cary Furnace. So more to follow. I will be sending out, just a little blurb regarding that. And if anybody who wants to join these meetings, I'll let you know when and where they're going to happen. Also, SEDCO wants me to mention that there will be students from Pitt and Youngstown State in the borough for the next few months doing a geo-mapping project of our vacant lots so that residents and the police know they're around. So if you see college students walking around doing things, they're out there doing some work for our borough. And also SEDCO will be looking at Monongahela Streetscape project to get something on track after the borough building is completed. So we're looking to do some improvements, write some grants for Monongahela. So more to follow. Also, a few of the veteran banners have been taken down temporarily. The brackets, some of the brackets broke. So if anybody is missing a banner, they've been taken down, they're safe, and we will get those reinstalled when the new brackets come in. And I'd also like to mention that there is an Eagle Scout that contacted me regarding doing his Eagle Scout project, and he would like to do something at the Church Street Parklet, possibly the walking path from Church to Braddock, or do some landscaping in our parks. So when I have a plan from him, I will pass that along to council for their approval and hopefully get you involved in helping him with this project. His name is Reggie Scott, and he is 17 years old, and it's going to be a nice little project for our borough. The Rotary of Swissvale again is partnering with the Swissvale Mile, and for the launch kickoff party will be on April 29th at the pub in the park. The race will coincide with the community day Swissvale anniversary. It will be that morning, July 29th, and more to follow with that. Our Rotary meetings will be at the Pub in the Park on March 9th, if anybody would like to come and join us. That is at noon. And we are having an event on March 23rd in the event hall at 1913 McCaig Street. And our 2022-23 grant recipient is Angels Place on Woodstock. And we provided them with some of their much needed supplies to keep it Angels Place running. Also, Swissvale's 125th anniversary is right around the corner, and we are planning a planning meeting for March 14th at 7 p.m. at 1913 McCaig Street. So if anybody would like to be involved in the planning of our huge party in the Borough of Swissvale, please attend 7 p.m. March 14th. The farmers market this year has moved to Dixon School. Our new hours will be Saturdays from 9 to 2, and watch for some possible evening pop-up markets, same location, and we'll let you know when that happens. And public service announcement, daylight savings right around the corner. March 12th, we get to spring forward. So we had our lovely spring day today, and spring's upon us, yay. Questions or comments?
Oh, yes, I do have something. So of course, I've seen Reggie grow up, wonderful young man. I think he's the same age as mine. But I've seen him selling popcorn. He's always been very vested in the community, wonderful young man. And so I'm so glad that he wants to do a project with us. I would probably caution him not to do a project on the parklet, since that one, there's a lot of other things that are going to go into that, and we don't want to put something in and then take something out or have it go around there. So that's probably a stickier place to get something done. But he has wonderful ideas, so I'm sure he'll be able to come up with one of the billions of locations that we have out there and thousands of places that need work. And of course, if he is selling popcorn again, which he probably is, please knock on my door, or at least let me know, and I can buy some more popcorn.
Yeah, so any plans will definitely go through the council before he starts anything. So I will send those out when I have them.
Thank you, Mayor Schwartzwelder. Is there any other comments or questions for her?
Thank you.
Great. Let's move on to the manager's report. Mr. Batchy.
Thanks, sir. First thing is just a reminder, I had mentioned last week, we are seeking applications for members of the Human Relations Commission. We had passed our anti-discrimination ordinance in January, and we are seeking members to serve on that board. The initial terms would be for 3, 4, or 5 years because we have to stagger the terms. And the deadline for that is March 31st. So if you're interested in serving on that board, please send something to me by March 31st, either emailed or via mail to 7600 Evans Street. And then just to respond to Mr. Bell's comments earlier, the house at 91 Lilmont Drive, I've had some conversations with Keystone Collection Service about that, and we as the borough and through code enforcement have basically exhausted all avenues to getting the family to comply. The nearest family member to the deceased that owned that house is in New Hampshire. They have no interest. They basically have walked away from it. So Keystone is going to put this to sheriff's sale on behalf of the borough. It's a valuable piece of property. There's not a lot of money owed on it. I can't give you a number right now, but there's no liens on it. It's just taxes, water bills, stuff like that. But there's no mortgages or anything against it that would be prohibitively expensive for anybody to buy. So we will recoup our money. There is cost involved in this that we have to front, but we will recoup that back upon sale of this property. Like I said, it is a very valuable property. You know, once it's rehabbed, it's probably going to be worth 150 to 175,000. So we'll definitely get our money back out of it. So I think, you know, that'll help the residents up on Lomont Drive. I mean, I know they've been putting it up with it for a long time, but you know, we have to do our due diligence and go through all the processes. But so Keystone is going to sheriff sale it. Hopefully within the next month or two, you'll see that show up. The next one he mentioned about was Vic's Putt Putt Golf. This is the property. It's the last property on the right-hand side on Woodstock Avenue before we cross the bridge, the Tassie Hollow Bridge. That property is up for sheriff sale right now. So hopefully we'll have a new owner. There's a very low bid price on that, less than $3,000 to obtain that. So hopefully we will get a new property owner in the near future, and they will make some improvements. And if they don't, at least we have somebody that we can go after again, because as the former owners have been long deceased. And then the last thing is he mentioned about Farkas Place, about a number of black bags and trash on the property. And I was unaware of that one, so I'll talk to Mark Lukac over at Code Enforcement tomorrow, and we'll follow up on that and give you an update later. And that is all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Batchy? Great. Well, I have some questions for you, but not with regard to your report. I was going to, and I know we've talked about some of this, but I don't see Mr. Ziskow on the call tonight because he would be next.
Yeah, he is not yet. Mr. Ziskow's not with us tonight. He's on vacation.
So are you able to comment on when McCaig is going out to bid, the Public Works Garage? You've told me, and I forget, I apologize, but can you remind me of what?
It's going to be advertised in the next 2 weeks, and we will have a bid opening sometime mid-April, and then we hope to award contracts at the May meeting.
Okay, great. And what about I know one of the other things that a lot of people have been chomping at the bit for is these walking trails for Memorial Field. Do you know what the status of that? Because I keep getting conflicting reports from the county and Mr. Ziskow. Do you know where that is at right now?
Yeah, I still have one document I need to pull. It's called a subsistence certificate from the state. They require the county requires these subsistence certificates every time that you are awarded a grant. So I have to pull that. Once that's pulled, everything will be submitted to the county, and then as soon as they turn it around, we can. Well, it sounds like we want to have some discussions with Sedco and some others, you know, before we put it out to bid, maybe. But we can start having those discussions whenever. I mean, that's fine. But it will probably be back to the county within a week.
So and Mr. Mraz, I'll get to you in just a second, just to make sure, restate the process. So once this subsidence document is pulled and sent to the county just basically needs to sign off on it, and then it comes back to us to be able to put whatever we want out to bid.
Once the county signs the contract, then we can we can go ahead and finalize the design and then put it out for bid.
Okay, great, thank you, Mr. Miser. Oh, sorry, was there more you're going to say?
Yeah, there's a state grant involved in this too, which expires June 30th, which I did get a 1-year extension on that, so that expires June 30th, 2024. So
okay.
Hopefully we can get this all done this summer, and hopefully be finished by the fall.
Thank you, Mr. Miser.
Yeah, and this was already kind of touched on. I do want to have some additional conversations around the proposed drawings, and I just wanted to make sure that those drawings. I know in the engineer report it said they're the final drawings, but is there still space or ability to alter those at all? Yes. Or there is? Okay.
Yeah, engineers like to do their drawings and say, well, these are final because that's what they want. But I feel comfortable saying that, being Mr. Ziskow's not on tonight. But but they say that all the time. These are the final drawings, but they're always subject to review by council. And if we have organizations or public that wants to make comments before it goes out to bid, we will certainly entertain those.
Okay.
And can we see those? Can they be sent to council? Because I know Mr. Miser had emailed, he had CC'd me and emailed Mr. Ziskow about them. And
yeah, there was some confusion because I actually received a digital copy from a resident saying, hey, I got the final drawings. And I was like, oh, these are the final drawings. I haven't seen any drawings.
They're not final because what you received, because I don't even have a set of them right now.
Okay. See, I've gotten So just, yeah, I was then sent a copy from Glenn Engineering that was exactly the same as the document that the resident sent to me.
Mhm.
And I was told by Glenn Engineering that they had hand delivered a copy of the final drawings to the borough building and a digital copy to the mayor.
I don't believe I have them. But we'll get them for you. That's not a problem at all.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Like
I
I
mean,
said, really, there's no need for me to have them right now because we can't do anything with them. And once we have the contracts in place, that's when, typically when I get the drawings from them and then we start to go over them.
I mean, is there anything that would prohibit Mr. Miser, since he has a digital copy, just to send that to council? Is that okay?
You can, yes.
Okay.
If you can copy me too.
Deneen, did you receive a digital copy?
So I called the office and I asked them to send me a copy, just because we've been in so many talks with so many different plans. And I asked him if he had a final copy and he sent it to me. I was not aware that he did not send it out to everybody, but yeah, I will forward that to everyone.
Perfect.
Yeah. And
if someone can do that.
I will say some of the confusion around those drawings, as you'll see if you review the digital copy, is most of them are dated 2021 and 2022. Yeah. And so I don't know how they're the final when it looks like some of them were proposed 2 years ago. Yeah, I'm kind of confused by the whole thing, but obviously there'll be more discussion around it.
Yeah, and like I said, until we have contracts in place, I never really worry myself too much about drawings because we can't do anything with them. So that's once we get that contract in place, then we'll get on this and get a clean set of drawings, get together who wants to be involved in reviewing them and making recommendations, and then get them back to Glenn for finalization.
Great. Thank you. Well, thanks for.
Yeah, and
go ahead.
I only asked because of all these other groups that, we just kind of wanted to know where it was and if it's actually going to happen. So I apologize. I didn't mean to step on anybody's toes, but I will send those out.
Thanks. I'm interested to see it. I mean, I had a conversation with a resident earlier today even, and we were bringing this up, and it was when he was on council, which he's not on council anymore. And that's been, almost 4 years that this has been in the works. And I know a pandemic derailed some of that, but I know many residents that are excited to move forward with this. So thank you, Mr. Batchy, for clarifying some of that information and making sure that the county gets our paperwork. Let's move on to the Water Authority report. Ms. Tracy Comrie Collins.
Hello, this is the Wilkinsburg Penn Joint Water Authority board meeting from yesterday, February 28th, an overview for council. Public comment had an email regarding daily remote meter readings. The reason I even incorporated in my report is because the question originated because a Swissvale resident's large bill due to a plumbing issue, which had been sent to me. The person's mother contacted a Wilkinsburg board member who forwarded it to me as a Swissvale board member, and then it ultimately lands with the executive director. But I just wanted to touch base on it. The infrastructure improvements are a priority at the authority, and reading meters daily is actually part of the infrastructure that is included in we've got a new computer system coming, we've got this, and we're starting to test digital remote meter readings. The test is going to happen in Pitcairn as early as April, a start. So we have that happening. The rule book has been updated for the 2023 rate change and has been available online. Several projects were put out to bid and received no responses, so those will be rebid. A new credit card payment processing vendor, Invoice Cloud, was approved, and the fee will be $2.95 per transaction, effective no sooner than June 30th. As part of the new computer system, billing will change from postcards to full invoices in envelopes late in 2023 or early 2024. This is something that I've asked for at the finance meeting every year since joining the board. The Penvest lead line replacement program, phase 1 progress continues with Jet Jack completing 3 to 4 replacements a day. And part of those replacements are in Swissvale. Although replacements may move for a time, but Swissvale figures prominently in phase 2. For phase 1, there were 235 contracts and 113 have been completed. For phase 2, there was a meeting held, and some of the information that came out of it was new federal guidelines, including minority and women business enterprises, stipulations, Build America, Buy America, and some infrastructure signage. The authority and engineer are identifying the addresses, the address sets, and letters could be sent in a few weeks. Swissvale will have approximately 200 as part of that phase 2. The Cary Furnace phase 3 contractor is attempting to schedule a boring subcontractor and provide the railroad with all the required insurance and documentation, but is still awaiting an actual start date. Churchill appointed James N. Williams III to the vacant board seat, and he was present at the meeting. Other business was conducted. The agenda, the engineer's report, the report of management, and the previous meeting minutes are all available online. An executive session was held, and there were 36 mainline breaks system-wide since the last board meeting. 3 were in Swissvale. There were 259 distribution, service, or repairs, 41 of which were in Swissvale. And in my written report, there is the schedule of what happened there. And again, as always, if you have or see any water issues, please contact the authority's customer service at 412-243-6200. And that's my report. Any questions?
Well, then, Tracy. No particular questions, although I will say I did try to pay my bill once again online. And they did try to charge me a fee. I backed out of it. But I think you can do it if you have through your bank account, but your bank account has to be the one that you send it through. So you can't go through the WPJW system and do it through your bank account. Otherwise, they'll charge you. So if you put it on your bank account and get them to do that, then they could get it. I am always looking for the way to pay that bill without incurring even a nickel more than what they should get. And of course, I so appreciate the job that you do for us by making sure you get all of this information. Extremely frustrating to get my water bill this month. Nothing to do with you, of course, but I did notice that the wastewater was $95 going out. What came into my house was only $50. I cannot express how painful that is for me, a working person who has another working person in the house. And so I can imagine what that does to our citizens who are on a more fixed income. I wish there was a way that we could solve that, but brains bigger than mine will have to come up with it. I also know I'm on some type of board with the water company, Alcasan. And I know they do have some money. I've talked to Greg about it. They have some, what do they call it? The grow grants that they want to make sure goes to neighborhoods like ours, so that we can get, they would really like us to spend it or apply for the grant so that we can get money to maybe repair sewage lines or get the combined system separated in different parts of our neighborhood. So I would encourage our borough to please apply for the grant. They're basically begging me to get us to apply because they want to give out this money. And if Scheuer happens to be the block that you want to split the combined system on, please do that. I would love to make sure that happened over here, since I actually know what's going on with the sewage and my bill is high. Not that that will decrease my
It
sewage
won't
bill
change
at
your
all.
bill. Yeah,
Not
it
at all.
won't change your bill.
But I really appreciate all the information that you bring us. It is very timely, and I'm always glad that we have you as our advocate. Your name is very well known, and people know that you are very sharp when you go to the board. So my appreciation for that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I will say, Alcosan is about 60%, if not more, of the bill from the water. And that's an ongoing problem. They have scheduled out a 5-year rate increase of 7% a year. So that is coming and not getting better. I mean, the issue becomes we have infrastructure that's more than 100 years old and everything needs replaced. And that's how it gets replaced, unless the government's going to completely take over or subsidize those kind of infrastructure changes. I will comment on the pay by phone. The options that are at the Water Authority to pay electronically do come with a fee, because that is a third party that we have contracted with. However, the company that we first started with, they started at a higher rate, and the more people that we got on electronic billing, then it went down. However, it will also be tied to the electronic billing, not the electronic payment. I'm sorry, the electronic payments, the electronic billing. So if you do not want a paper invoice, you can sign up to get an electronic bill, and that helps to curb costs at the Water Authority, and curb costs mean less need for rate increases. And that's my report.
I like that tip. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, unfortunately, separate stormwaters don't lower our bills, but it's so much better for the environment that we don't have sewage going everywhere and heavy rainstorms like we might have tonight, depending on what weather.com says. All right, let's move on to our last report, which will be our solicitor's report. Mr. McTiernan.
Yes, Mr. President, I did want to mention to council, the elected officials, and the participants in the meeting that some of you are familiar with the Pennsylvania Borough News, which is a statewide magazine published by the Pennsylvania Boroughs Association. And in the new issue that was just published, March of 2023, there's a feature, it's actually the feature article by my law partner, Daniel Conlon, called How Conservatorships Fight Blight. And it's just a how-to guide for municipalities and for interested citizens on how the 2008 Abandoned Properties and Blighted Properties Conservatorship Act functions. And I know that Swissville has been very creative and aggressive on fighting blight, and the subject came up this evening with both the council candidates and Mr. Darrell Bell, who was participating as a member of the public. And I just think that the elected officials might find it very interesting. Daniel's really doing a lot of work in this area, and he's getting a lot of inquiries and information from around the Commonwealth. And I just thought I would bring that to your attention. If you don't get the magazine, which I know a lot of officials do, it is on our Tucker-Arnsberg website and under News and Insights, and you can just read the article there. So I did want to mention that as a very, very increasingly effective tool that's being used in a number of communities. And that's all I have this evening.
Well, Mr. McTiernan, thanks so much. I did not realize that was your law firm. Wouldn't you know it? That is the one portion of this month's magazine that I ripped out of there to hold on to so I could recycle the rest. So it's sitting on my dining room table still, and I'll now get to read it again with the eye to know that this is a Tucker-Arnsberg individual who wrote it. So thank you for that information.
And Daniel's available to talk to council members or individuals who are interested at any time. And we've worked together on a couple of these projects. So yeah, thank you for mentioning it too, Mr. President.
Absolutely. Thanks. Any other questions for Mr. McTiernan? All right, let's move on to the unscripted portion, which is just announcements. Anything that we may have missed or you want to announce before we adjourn?
I just want to put it out there that the DEI committee is looking for residents who are interested in helping out with the Juneteenth celebration. We could use some additional hands this year in the overall planning for Juneteenth. And there was one more item, and of course I forgot. So when it comes to, I'll make mention of it.
Sounds good. Well, I mean, we are potentially going to adjourn in a moment, and if it comes to after the meeting's over, we can always find ways to get that out, the word out in other manners as well.
I just remembered.
Oh, great.
Sorry. And then Bill has something he wants to mention as well. We heard a lot in terms of interest to do something about our blight. One of our residents, Seth Bush, has actually orchestrated our ability to talk to some people smarter than us that can help us with like lot mapping to come up with an overall plan with how can we address some of these vacant lots. But many of us are stretched thin. And so if there are any residents who want to get more involved in doing something about these vacant lots, I highly encourage you to contact either myself, Seth Bush, or Sean Alfonso Wells so that we can get you on board, because we definitely would like to have more community involvement with this overall plan or so.
Yeah, these are graduate students. Most of them are graduate, and a few undergrads that are actually using this as one of their like senior projects. And so they're coming, they are digital natives, and they will be their digitally native selves and, you know, GIS locate all kinds of things, GIS, GPS, something, whatever. And there are so many different types of projects that they want to do with this and that they're at our disposal. Right now, it seems that the really exciting thing about Swissvale is we have become a hub for students coming in and wanting to do projects with us. And I think that is literally fantastic. The impact that they're going to make with this project is going to be felt for generations. And hopefully our children and ourselves and our parents and, you know, all of our neighbors will be able to appreciate the neighborhood. We're trying to map certain things out. They're going to see what are the best things to put in these areas. And the best thing that they're doing, and the one thing I appreciate the most, is that they're going to be asking the residents who live in those areas, walk by those areas, what they want and what they want to see there. And it's not taking a top-down approach. This is a very grassroots type of approach. And I'm so proud of the fact that we have become this like educational nexus for the universities. And there's two universities involved. One is the University of Pittsburgh and one is the University in Ohio. And so we're going to get the collective knowledge of two separate programs that are working together and to improve our area. So if there's definitely, if there are citizens who are interested, please let us know. This is a ground-based movement, and we want to make sure we have as many voices as possible heard.
Ms. Alfonso Wells, is this the same group of students that Mayor Schwartzwalder was referring to earlier in her comments with like SEDCO that are geomapping vacant lots?
Yep. Yeah,
So
I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is.
Okay.
I think Seth is like this great octopus. And if he hears this, I hope he laughs. But his arms are just wiggling in all kinds of directions. He's making all types of connections everywhere. And I think that's the same project. So and they want to be able to make all of these connections. Deneen, is that the same project? Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Because I was going to say, it sounds eerily similar that if it's not the same project, they need to probably work together in some capacity. So perfect. Wonderful. Thanks for those suggestions and announcements.
He's definitely an octopus, because I didn't know that was the same project that Deneen was mentioning.
All right, Mr. Price, you had something you wanted to say.
Sure. If there's anyone that's sitting on the fence at home that's thinking about running for council, we just interviewed 5 great candidates tonight to fill 1 vacancy. But there will be more vacancies this fall on council. And the deadline, I believe, runs maybe next week sometime
next Tuesday.
yeah, so if anyone is considering running this fall, there's still time to circulate a petition. And I myself, I'm retiring from council this fall at the end of my term. And Weldy, I don't believe you're running again. Council is going to be lawyer free. Council the last 4 years has had 3 lawyers on council. And,
don't knock out Mr. McTiernan. He may not be on council, but we actually depend on his counsel.
Mr. McTiernan, if you could move to Swissville, although there's a 1-year residency requirement, unfortunately, but perhaps when you retire from Tucker Aaronsburg, you could move here and you could run.
I'd be honored to be a colleague of the current members.
Wonderful.
But it's great to see all this enthusiasm for people wanting to work in our local government.
I definitely join in your sentiments. I'm very much pleased with the excitement and the quality of the applicants.
I agree. I was struck by that too, that we've got a really hard decision to make in a few weeks. So wonderful. Any other announcements before we adjourn? I would welcome the opportunity to entertain a motion for adjournment.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. I don't care who it was the second, and all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Adjourned at 8:23 p.m. Have a great night, everyone.
Good night.
Hey,
Good night,
we're
everybody.
not meeting again. There's not a meeting after. There's no executive session. What? I'm free? I'm free? I'm free!
You're free.